Hello, it's John Heaton, and I'm going to do a Stones review next. The last few have obviously been taken up with me doing these Imaginary Beatles albums, so apologies for those of you who are waiting for other stuff. So I'll do a Stones one, I'll get around to doing another Dylan one, obviously. And this album from 1981 is an interesting album because, as we'll see, it's made up more or less exclusively of leftovers or non-used material from the previous few albums. Came out 24th of August 1981. It was number one in the US, pretty high in the UK as well, I think. Number 2 in the UK, number 3 in Italy. Just look if I can see Canada. Number 1 in Canada, number 8 in Japan. And a good cover. I think an improvement on Emotional Rescue, which had been a pretty awful cover, if we're honest. Decent album, but awful cover, and the poster which came with it was pretty awful as well, even though it's nice always to have a poster to come with any album. But this album was originally called Tattoo, and they added You at the last minute. And Keith thought that Mick had done that without his permission, but Mick says he can't even remember how You got added. But I think Tattoo You is probably a better title than Tattoo. I don't know, Tattoo You kind of rhymes. So you got Mick on the front and then Keith on the back. And the other Stones are not pictured on this particular album artwork. In fact, there's not even any credits to say who plays on which track. It's the familiar Stones label. And I guess maybe one of the reasons for that is because Mick Taylor is on several of the tracks. And he actually got some money from the Stones. He wasn't credited, and he got some money quite rightly for his contributions. And but Ronnie Wood is obviously on most of the stuff. So what else can we say before we tell you the background? Yeah, I mean, this album was put together because they decided to go on tour and they needed an album to tour off. So they hadn't stopped writing material, according to Keith, but they just didn't have enough time to put it together. And then whoever was producing it, the associate producer, Chris Kimsey, he'd been looking through some of the unused material and said, look, guys, we've got some great stuff here. Some of it was just a backing track without vocals. Please go away and add some vocals or add some whatever was needed. And I think you've got an album here. So they did just that. And actually, considering this is a hodgepodge of stuff dating back all the way to Goat's Head Soup, it flows remarkably well together. So that's, I think, a tribute to the production skills. I'm just seeing if it's credited. Presumably produced by the Glimmer Twins. Mick and Keith, a.k.a. Doesn't say on the actual album. The Glimmer Twins, yeah, well, according to Wikipedia anyway. So Charlie, Bill and Ronnie not pictured or mentioned, slightly unusually, because they definitely were the lineup. But as I said, it's probably because Mick Taylor is on some tracks and Billy Preston is on a couple because they're left over from Black and Blue. In fact, let's do that now. Let's tell you exactly where the tracks originated. So Start Me Up was worked on as a reggae type track, not with the same title. I forget what the name of the title was, but it was in the Some Girls sessions, and obviously it hadn't come to anything. I'm not sure if I've heard that. I've got a bootleg of Some Girls outtakes, but I don't think I've heard that one. But they obviously improved upon it, and it became the massive hit single that it was, and really helped launch the album to the top of the charts. Hang Fire, the next track, is from the Some Girls sessions and worked on during Emotional Rescue. Slave is from Black and Blue. Little TNA is from Emotional Rescue. Black Limousine is from Some Girls. Neighbours is from Emotional Rescue. Worried About You from Black and Blue. Tops from Goat's Head Soup. Heaven from Emotional Rescue. No Use in Crying from Emotional Rescue. And Waiting on a Friend, a backing track from Goat's Head Soup. So, as I say, considering it's a hodgepodge, it flows well, and they put all the rockers on side one, and all the ballads on side 2, which works well in terms of if you want the mood of the softer tracks, they're all together on side 2. So I think that's a good decision. What else can we say? Jan Wenner, Rolling Stone, thinks it's the Stones' most underrated album. Mick said, I think it's excellent, but all the things I usually like it doesn't have. It doesn't have any unity of purpose or place or time. I'm not sure if I've got a comment from Keith on the album. But it's fairly well regarded and was well reviewed. I think it was better received than Emotional Rescue was. Maybe not as ecstatic, the reviews, as greeted Some Girls, because it's not as good as Some Girls, let's be honest. But it's a decent latter-day Stones effort, and they would struggle to match the quality of this one in their later career, in my opinion. In fact, this is their last... I'm not sure if it's a great album, but it's pretty decent. I think it's their last consistently decent album. I'll say that much. And it obviously opens up with this superb single, which maybe has been overplayed over the years and it's a bit overrated. It's not up there with their classic singles like Jumping Jack Flash, in my opinion, but it's good. It gets people on the dance floor, it gets people moving, it's got a good riff, and it's got some fiery lyrics from Mick Jagger. Not my favourite, but for decent. And Hang Fire is a superb track. I'm not sure why they left this off Emotional Rescue. Is better than Summer Romance, for example, from that album. They could have easily put that one on Emotional Rescue. It's a decent track. Slave, similarly, I'm not sure how progressed it was at the time of Black and Blue, but that would have been a great addition to Black and Blue, maybe instead of one of the laid-back numbers, because it doesn't rock hard enough, Black and Blue, in my opinion. That's one of my criticisms of that particular album. But Slave is an excellent riff. There's an extended version, 6.5 minutes. This album version is just shy of 5. And great backing vocals. I'm not sure what was overdubbed later versus originally in 76, 75, but it's a very successful track, followed by Little TNA, which is possibly one of the Stones' worst tracks. Lyrically, it's rubbish and maybe mildly offensive as well, but it's just rubbish as a song, and Keith was to write far better material. All About You from Emotional Rescue, or Before They Make Me Run from Some Girls, is just in another league. This is just a throwaway track if ever there was one. I'm not sure why they stuck with it. And it came from Emotional Rescue, should have been left on the cutting room floor, I think. Black Limousine, again, smacks a bit of an outtake of a rejected track. It's got the kind of grit and power of some of the Some Girls rockers, but it's just a lesser track. And but in the context of side 1, it's a recovery after Little TNA, that's for sure, and it's not bad. And Neighbours is a very enjoyable track. And they made an amusing video. In fact, they made several videos from this album. There's a video for Start Me Up, there's a video for this. I think there might be a video for Worried About You, and there's certainly a video for Waiting on a Friend. And I read that Michael Lindsay Hogg did the videos. And he obviously is famous for having done the rock and roll, Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, December 68. And the Beatles' Let It Be, which came out in 1970. So that's interesting. So Neighbours is a strong closer to side 1. And then Worried About You opens side 2, an outtake from Black and Blue, and it's got Mick singing falsetto quite effectively. Not quite sure if it should have been a side opener. It's not one of the better tracks on the album. And then Tops features Mick Taylor on guitar from Goat's Head Soup. Again, a bit of a filler. I'm not sure if it would have improved Goat's Head Soup, the album, because I think that album flows well from start to finish. But interesting how that originates from 8 years previous. Heaven is a more successful track, very moody, relaxed vibe to this track. And kissing and running away. Nice reflective, romantic lyrics, and as I say, a good vibe to this from the Emotional Rescue sessions. No Use in Crying is a kind of by numbers ballad, bit similar to some of the ballads on It's Only Rock and Roll. It reminded me of that a bit, like Till Next Time We Say Goodbye, that kind of thing. But it's a decent song. But then the album finishes with the strongest track on the album by far, in my opinion, and that's Waiting on a Friend. Just sublime melody, and I want to tell you the sax player who played on this track, if I can find it, because he really takes it to another level. He plays on a few tracks. He plays on Slave. Sonny Rollins is his name, and there's a great video for this. Mick is sitting on the steps of the same building that was used for the front cover of Physical Graffiti, Led Zeppelin album from '75. Keith walks down the street, shakes him by the hand, shakes the black guy next to Mick by the hand, who is Peter Tosh, walks into the bar, or what is it in the video, a bar where the rest of the Stones are waiting for them, and they sing the song. It's one of their very best videos, and great job by Michael Lindsay Hogg. It really is. And that reminds me, there used to be a VHS compilation of their videos released in 1983 called Rewind, where Mick and Bill were walking around this imaginary Stones museum and finding all these lost videos. And but for some reason that has never been released on DVD, probably because Bill's left the band now and they don't want to have anything to do with him. But that's videos like this, still to this day, are not even officially released, which is a great shame, although you can probably get them on YouTube and stuff, so it's not a big loss. But what a great closer to the album, and what a great vibe and lyric to the song, you know. I'm not waiting on a lady, I'm just waiting on a friend, you know. And Mick, and it's a tribute to Mick and Keith's longevity of their friendship. At this stage, anyway. They were to fall out a few years later and have the big bust up, which led to Keith's solo album Talk Is Cheap and Mick's solo career. But at this stage, they were pretty much together, 1981, and this is a pretty decent album, and I come back to it quite often. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.